Lawmakers have unanimously voted to hold clergy members to the same criminal standards as teachers and coaches.
So it seems like in the state of Georgia, we're about to pass this bill that's going to put clergy members, let's talk about pastors, deacons, all the people that are in the church, we're going to put them in the same level when it comes to sexual misconduct as coaches, therapists, those that are in the school system, which is weird. I didn't know that they weren't before. But so much we know. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Big Bleu. It's the channel where we find the truth, seek understanding, and be the light. So if you guys don't know, let's go ahead and dig into it real quick. So let's just go ahead and break this bill down really quick before we actually get into the video. So what is Senate Bill 542? It would change Georgia's criminal code to allow clergy members, pastors, ministers, etc., to be charged with certain sexual offenses when they abuse their position of spiritual authority. It amends the law on improper sexual contact by employee or agent. It adds clergy to a list of authoritative figures like teachers, law enforcement, who could be prosecuted under this statute. So it's interesting. It seems like, and I wasn't aware of this, but it seems like pastors, those that were in the church, when it comes to these type of sexual misconducts, whether it be, assaults, whether it be, all of these different type of sexual interactions, relationships that they have with other people in the church, and they use their status, they use their authority to do so, it seems like they weren't under the same legal punishment as those when it comes to the schools, which makes sense because now that we think about it, we hear of these pastors that may be involved or haven't been fully accused okay, let me rephrase that. We have these situations in which pastors are involved in these type of scenarios, but the most that they do is probably step down. And in some cases, they may just step down for a little bit, and then they end up right back where they were before because they're the pastor type situation. And that is not okay. By no means. It is not. But let's go ahead and go to the video and see exactly what we got going on in regards to this situation. Why can't I full screen?
The state legislature, where lawmakers have unanimously voted to hold clergy members to the same criminal standards as teachers and coaches. The bill now heading to the governor's desk and closes a legal loophole to protect survivors. Let's get out to Deidre Dukes there on the grounds of the state capitol with more on what all this bill entails. Deidre?
And this was clearly, as you said off the top there, Tom, that both members of the House and Senate could unanimously get behind this bill passing unanimously in both the House and Senate, now headed to the governor's desk for his signature. This bill was one that truly touched a lot of people because they heard some very emotional testimony from victims, sexual abuse victims who were victimized and testified as to that abuse, victimized at the hands of clergy, victimized at the hands of spiritual leaders, people who they trusted and who in turn abused that trust, they told lawmakers. Now, under current state law, sexual misconduct charges often require that the perpetrator be a teacher, a coach, or a similar authority figure. Now, the Georgia Clergy Sexual Abuse Bill eliminates this loophole, reclassifying religious leaders as protected figures of trust, and that way ensuring that they face the same criminal standards as any other professional in charge of minors or vulnerable adults. Now, the bill passed by unanimous vote, as I said, in both the House and Senate, after lawmakers did hear that emotional testimony. And we talked to one of those survivors who lobbied for the legislation about the bill's recent passage.
For me and for other survivors that are in the state of Georgia, I hope if I provide some hope for some accountability coming forward. By no means is this an easy thing. For all of us that are here, our body's experiencing a lot while we're here, but we're doing it because we care about the future. And so grateful that there was a unanimous vote, that it shows that the whole legislative from the Senate to the House is on board with not just politics and Democrat, Republican stuff, but what actually matters in this case is like to hold people accountable no matter what party you are. It's not about a party. It's about holding people accountable and standing up for victims.
And lawmakers apparently agreeing with what that victim did say during our interview with her. Now, if this bill is signed into law, Tom, Georgia would join a number of states across the country, a growing number who have signed similar legislation into law, holding clergy responsible for prosecution when they do commit this crime.
It's important legislation, and you can understand why it means so much to survivors who had to endure something so horrific, that these clergy members, ones implicated in criminal instances like this, are held to a different account.
Okay. This makes things a little awkward for me because I was unaware that clergy members weren't held to that accountable by the state. You've committed sexual assaults. More than likely, these older men messing around and doing inappropriate things with minors. Older men using their power and their status in the church, and again, abusing the trust of individuals to get with women. And they weren't criminally charged, or at least at the same degree as teachers. The second you even get like the second the school gets a whiff of anything that's alleged, you're losing your job with the quickness. You are losing your job. And you're telling me that of all the situations of these churches that just had these authoritative figures, clergy people, even pastors that are out here doing these crazy, ridiculous, heinous acts with these women, with these young girls, you're telling me that they weren't held to that same accountability on a state level? Because we already seen in the past that of some, actually, it's interesting. I can't remember if it was Georgia, maybe it was Texas, but there was actually a pastor. I was watching it somewhere, and there was a pastor that was convicted of these type of heinous acts. He stepped down, and then the church ultimately ended up closing. Now, the church closing is definitely an interesting thing. I wouldn't have expected that. But for him to have stepped down, I mean, that's jail time. If it was just a regular person, he would have gotten jail time, right? Last time I checked, that's jail time, right? So with that being said, it's just baffling that this is the world that we lived in, to where before this bill is passed or is about to be passed by Kemp, their level of accountability wasn't that high. Is it just because it's church? I don't understand, because to me, the church, the congregation, who we have our children and those lost souls supposed to be looking up to, and you're abusing that power to tend to your flesh. Not only that, to mess up another female's mind and her spirit and make her think that this is what the faith calls and whatnot. This wasn't held to an accountability as just some teacher or a therapist that is abusing their authority over their individuals, their students, those that's coming for them. That's wow, man. Wow. That's crazy. It's like these type of things is what we should be putting focus on. Because these are individuals that are scarred for years. These are individuals that when they grow up, not just women, men too, with these other pastors that are tended to the homosexual realm. These are individuals that their life, how they see things, are altered because of these type of events, and they weren't held accountable before. Wow. You see, and it's things like this, guys, where it's like we have to be diligent in making sure that we're aware of what is going on. When the Israelites were given the commandments, the Jews, they were given the commandments, best believe that they, even till this day, they know their commandments left and right. They studied it. They know it. That is their law. it's a little different here in America. I mean, granted, there's a whole bunch of laws that we have, and like from minor stuff to major stuff. This is true, but there's so many Americans that they just don't know. They shrug their shoulders when it comes to these type of situations, understanding what the law does, what it doesn't, type of penalties that they could have and penalties that they won't have. So many code of conducts that come into play, but we just don't know. We just don't know. And it just makes things worse because these are the people of the church. If we're following the same faith, you're essentially abusing your role. I was going to say gift, but this wouldn't have been a gift. This was just a role that they've assumed position on. Essentially a sheep and a wolf in sheep's clothing. Just preying on everybody. Shame. First off, but shame on the government for for allowing this doesn't make sense. Why is this now being passed? This is crazy. This is crazy. I mean, the way I'm going to look at it is better late than never. It's better late than never. And we just got to be more involved in what's going on in the community, in the state, and decide wisely when we vote and who we vote for, because when these people make these type of laws and they put them in place, they're going to be in place. And if they're not in place because the right people didn't say it, then it's not in place. And therefore, you have all these predators that will continue to go and go and go and go. And it's like, well, if the church doesn't say anything and the church turns their back on it, even though they know exactly what's going on, then nothing happens. That's bogus to me. That's crazy. Especially living in Georgia. That's wild. But, I mean, interesting video nonetheless. Y'all let me know in the comment section what y'all think. I'm going to catch y'all next one. Take it easy. Peace.